Hey everybody, Kyle Goth here from GoatFilmReviews.com and the Goat Film Reviews YouTube channel, and it's a late night because I'm just getting back from the very lengthy, very long The Brutalist from director Brady Corbet. This film is, it flew completely under my radar this year. I only heard about it maybe a month ago when it started hitting festivals. A couple of my colleagues had seen it and just had these rave reviews, and so I knew nothing about the film other than A24 had picked it up for distribution and that it had a pretty lengthy runtime. This movie comes in at 3 hours and 35 minutes plus or minus the intermission. I don't know if the intermission was included in that total runtime. To be honest, I kind of lost track of time watching the movie. And I want to mention that really quick. The film does feature an overture and an intermission, and those are two things I dreadfully need more of in my life if we're going to have long movies, because I do think that it helped break up the pacing a little bit, helped kind of give you a rest after the first half of the film where you could collect yourself and kind of watch a part two, if you will. And this movie had a very nice spot in which to cut. In fact, it has part one and part two as title cards. So a movie that's got chapters or title cards like that, an overture, intermission, take my money, take it right now. I can't wait. And so overall, the 3 hours and 35 minutes, that's going to be the big talking point of the film. I mean, it was for me going into it. I did not feel the 3 hours and 35 minutes. I didn't feel the runtime of this movie. And this is, last night I just saw Red One, which ran 2 hours and 4 minutes, the Dwayne Johnson rescuing Santa Claus movie. That movie felt longer than this one did. That one felt exponentially longer. That was a dreadfully paced movie. Whereas, The Brutalist, there's not a ton of actual action in the film. A lot of it is heady intellectual discussion. And so if that's not your thing, I can't really tell you to go see the movie then, but for what the movie is, I think it works pretty well. I didn't get bothered by the runtime. I thought the main performance from Adrien Brody was fantastic. It might be my favorite performance he's ever given. I thought Felicity Jones was great. She must have really done some physical transformation for this film, because she was so much thinner and lighter than I expected to see her, and I didn't realize it was her for a moment. I knew she was in the movie, and I was like, when does Felicity Jones show up? And when she finally does, I was like, when does Felicity Jones show up? But she's quite good as well. Guy Pearce stands out. He was quite... I always like Guy Pearce, let's be honest, but I like when Guy Pearce flips the script, and I think in this movie, he surprises me a couple of times with the way I expect his character to go based on his performance and where he actually ends up. There's also an actor, he was in Black Panther, Isaac de Bancole, who plays Gordon. He's kind of, been living on the streets with Laszlo's character, Adrien Brody, for a while. They kind of strike up a partnership because they're trying to get into different soup kitchens and food places together. I think their relationship is really interesting. First of all, I should mention the actual plot of the film. So Brody plays Laszlo Toth, who is an architect who escaped Budapest for America and is awaiting his wife and niece to arrive as well following the events of World War II. And so the film is set during about 14, 15 years, from like the mid-40s to 1960. And it covers his time as an architect trying to get on his feet, trying to make his way in America, and all the while kind of discovering very slowly that the country that he wants and the American dream that he's searching for here in this place doesn't exactly exist. Even for the people that have always lived here, it doesn't really exist. And so there's a lot of kind of broken promises there, and also the idea that immigrants, especially Jewish immigrants, kind of are ending up here with this promise of safety and kind of getting chewed up and spit out, kind of having everything taken away from them still. And I think that's a very interesting argument to make for the film, and it's something I hadn't really thought about. Is like, we viewed, and especially early on in the film is very of two halves, and that's again why the intermission works. The first half of the film feels like it's very much more joyous, I guess I would say. It's not joyous, but more joyous, because it presents the idea that he's made it, he's here now, and things are going to be okay. And as that first half of the film goes, there's trials and tribulations, there's losses and gains, but it isn't until like the halfway point of the film that we really start to see things teeter over. And Laszlo's a very interesting character. Like I said, is played by Adrien Brody. I think he's dealing with this kind of self-loathing, this shame, maybe over his survival, maybe over leaving his wife behind to begin this new life, this shame over a lot of things in his life. And that becomes notable with, you know, certain elements like, you know, he struggles with confidence and impotency, and he spends so much of the movie kind of hating himself and self-destructing in some ways. And maybe it's because it might be partially because of the events of the film in which he is kind of placed in a position where he has to, how do I say it best? He's placed in a position where so much is riding on every choice he makes because he is investing himself in these decisions. And when they don't work, or when they can't work, or when outside forces cause them not to work, he becomes kind of blamed and kind of removed from the process. This is a very heady movie, and I'm going to be honest with you, I'm kind of like rolling through my first initial thoughts on the film. I can't really tell you 100% of what I took away from the film, but I think it's a movie that has a lot to say, and I think it's a movie where you're going to take away elements that might be different from someone else, because I certainly think the conversations I've had around it have been very different than what other people have experienced in it as well. But I found myself drawn to the Laszlo character, drawn to the relationship he has with Harrison, played by Guy Pearce, who is the rich man who kind of hires Laszlo to create this behemoth architectural monolith, if you will. You know, this thing that is in recognition of his recently passed. And yeah, it's a massive tome of a film. It reads like a book. And this is not going to be a movie for everybody. But for me, knowing what I was getting, I got exactly what I expected. I found the film captivating. I found the twists and turns and the character motivations and the plotline to work really well. I thought the movie was shot really well. It felt like footage taken out of the 40s, 50s, 60s, and there's even one section near the end of the film that covers a little bit of the 80s, and you feel like the footage from the film comes out of that. We watched it in a Dolby cinema, which surprised the hell out of me because, again, this is an A24 film. It's a very long movie, and it's a very low-budget film, comparatively speaking, to movies that get into Dolby. So I'm really interested in seeing that. It sounds like A24 wants to release this film on the best possible screens, and I implore them for that because I think this movie is quite spectacular. And if anything else, I can tell you this. I don't think that the runtime is going to have an effect outside of people actually deciding to go see it. But hey, you get 2 movies out of it. You get a time you can go to the bathroom in the middle, go get your popcorn filled up. It's fantastic. I did all that and I got back. There was still 10 minutes left of the intermission. So overall, yeah, I really liked this movie. But the thing about it is I'm just kind of like, it's stuck in my head the entire ride home. I was practically in silence on the way home, just getting here to film this first reaction. And I don't 100%, I don't really have my mind like structured around it, other than to say that the main 2 characters have a really great journey throughout the film, and that Brady Corbet and his co-screenwriter Mona Fastvold wrote a very fascinating character piece, a very fascinating look at the lives of immigrants in the 40s and 50s and early 60s, and kind of juxtaposed it onto a lot of what we have today without it actually feeling like it's juxtaposed. You can kind of bring a lot of your understanding of the immigrant experience from today and compare and contrast, and it's interesting the ways in which it has changed and the ways in which it has stayed relatively the same. Overall, though, The Brutalist, you know, one of the least brutal things about this film was actually the runtime. And I think the you know, it's not an easy film to watch. There's some pretty graphic sequences in it that were hard to watch, hard to experience. But I think overall the experience of watching it is something that I am really excited to do again. I don't know that I'll be able to sit that long in the theater a second time. Yeah, my back is a little bit twisted from it. But I would say definitely if you have a chance to see this film on the big screen with a group, I think it would be a lot of fun to have that moment. Again, having that intermission when you guys can talk with that 15-minute break. I discussed what we'd seen. It was almost like leaving a play, you know, between acts 1 and 2 and being able to discuss with your fellow playgoers about the story you were seeing unfold. And I thought that was really great. It's a communal experience. And again, I think it's one of those things that will bring people back to the theaters. But I don't know that the film's content is going to be for everybody, but if you think this content is for you, if you can handle the 3.5-hour runtime, and if you are a person that, which I think you can, and if you're a person that's interested in these kind of very long drawn out tales of human beings over many years, I think there's a lot to like about The Brutalist. So definitely check out the film. It's getting my recommendation, and then come on back here and leave your thoughts in the comments section below for The Brutalist. You can also like and subscribe. There are 2 free things you can do that help support the channel immensely, and you'll never miss new episodes of the show as they drop. Again, if you see the film, please comment below because I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I think people are going to walk away with different things in their heads than I did. And I want to know what you thought about it when you leave the theater. So please share those thoughts in the comments section. You can also find goatfilmreviews.com for my many written reviews. You can find Goat Film Reviews on Facebook. You can follow me personally at Almighty Goatman on Twitter, Instagram, Letterboxd, and Threads. You can find my show, Kyle and Nick on Film, that I co-host with Nick Palatichuk from the St. Paul Filmcast. We have new episodes of the show every single week. There's also a link in the video description here for the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance, of which I am a member. You can find that, other film critics' reviews of The Brutalist, or just more of my stuff over there as well. Thank you so much for joining me, and we'll see you next time. Bye-bye.